Some people may remember the Great Clown Incident of 2016, where people would dress up like clowns and go around with balloons and signs, sometimes even weapons, to spook people. Though these sightings were mostly reported in America and Canada, the UK had their fair share of encounters. I personally had 3. It was October, surprisingly enough, and school was in session when the first one showed up. I was in maths when it happened, and heard about it during lunch, very casually mentioned it in a passing conversation. Did you hear about the clown sightings? Oh, yeah, it's crazy, right? I know, yeah. Did you see the one that showed up in the car park? The what? Apparently, a few students had witnessed not 1, but 2 clowns in full costume wielding balloons on school property. The first skulked into the school's car park and stood in the middle of it, looking up into the windows and waving at the children looking back down at him, while his friend watched by the gate. This didn't last more than 5 minutes as the receptionist came running out, yelling to them that she had called the police. The first clown very calmly turned and walked back to his friend, and they both piled into the back of a black car, waving goodbye to the receptionist as they drove away. The second encounter was also one that I didn't witness, but heard about. My friend and I were leaving school together on a Wednesday and saw that the place was swarming with police officers. They were parked all the way up the road, escorting children across streets and even stationed outside local shops. I asked about it and got bits and pieces of information, but all the people shared similar stories. A clown had created a Facebook account. Their profile picture was a generic creepy clown and their name was blank the clown. The user had posted a picture of our school with the caption, Wednesday, 1:40 p.m. Our school saw it and freaked out. The faculty called the police and they were stationed outside our school for another week after the incident, though nothing really came out of it except a report later that night of a clown sighting at one of the local shops. Finally, the last encounter was one I saw. I was in the car with my dad. He was driving me home from band practice and it was October. It was pretty dark out. We pulled around the corner into our street while my dad suddenly slammed on the brakes. A clown was stood in the middle of the road, right at the turning. If my dad hadn't been so quick on the brakes, we would surely have rammed into him. My dad flared his horn and rolled down his window to yell at the dude who didn't move a muscle. The clown just looked at him. It wasn't holding anything, just standing there. My dad and I share a lot of things, including having a wild temper. But what we don't have in common is how we handle our anger. He's a confrontational person, while I'll just let it bubble inside until I get to my room and let loose on any poor piece of furniture that may be too close. My dad gets out of the car and starts angrily walking towards the clown, who must now see who exactly he pissed off. My dad is taller than the clown and a lot larger with tattoos on every inch of his body and a biker beard. The clown must have seen this hulking, tattered guy charging towards him, yelling profanities and chose to live as he half walked, half jogged backwards in massive shoes onto the pavement. Then pointed to the car with one hand and held out his other hand to stop my dad and made a lady's first gesture. My dad, though confrontational, knows the win when he sees one. He climbs back into the car, still seething with anger, and peels away. By the way, as this was going down, I was sat in the passenger seat, in silent terror. Those are my clown encounters, though I'm sure I'll be back again, as Halloween is fast approaching and I live in a not-so-savory neighborhood. So, for the meantime, creepy clowns, let's not meet. I'll start off by explaining the area so you can get a good picture of where this occurred. We lived in a small neighborhood. All of the surrounding streets dead-end into a half-circle park. Behind the park are some woods and a railroad track. When we were younger, we all played in the front part of the woods. We never ventured too far back. This was our play area for years. Never had an issue or scare. This area was a pretty well-lit wooded area. Anyhow, one day my brother Jimmy, my best friend Sarah, and my brother's best friend Ian were all building a dam in the middle of the small creek that ran through the park and the woods. The boys decided that they were going back to Ian's house for some snacks. Sarah and I said we would stay and finish our camp area. As we are moving rocks around, I get a very odd feeling come over me. A strange feeling that we are being watched. I immediately think it's the boys trying to scare us, and just continue with what we are doing. Sarah and I load up some big rocks and head back to the creek. and put them down at the dam. I get that feeling again, and as I stand up, I see something straight in front of me, about 30 feet away. I can't clearly make out what it is yet, because it is behind a bush, but I do see that it is a pattern of red and blue. I know that's nothing the boys had on, so at this point I am focusing, trying to figure out what it is. As I am scanning the bush, I start to realize it is a clown. My heart started pounding immediately. The clown and my eyes lock. He's wearing a blue/red hat with a reverse pattern red/blue jumpsuit. I grab Sarah's shirt and immediately pull her upright, and she notices the man right away. He is smiling with a full face of makeup and has a huge knife. We both say nothing and start running as fast as our legs can take us. He begins to follow. We can hear twigs snapping and ground crunching, but we are booking it. We run through the front of the woods and through the side of the park and up her dead-end street. Ian and Jimmy are 2 houses up from the end and see us running and are screaming what is going on. While running past, we scream, "A clown!" and they start laughing. We are still running, screaming for our lives, and finally make it to the middle of the street where Sarah's dad, Danny, is now running out the front door because he hears us screaming. We meet Danny right at the beginning of the neighbor's house, and we are trying to explain what we have seen. And he says, "Girls, stop it now. This is ridiculous. What are you talking about?" We try to catch our breath. By this time, Jimmy and Ian have caught up to us. We are crying and pointing and telling Danny again that we have seen a clown and a knife. Jimmy and Ian are laughing, and Danny is asking if they played a prank on us. About this time, an old yellow Pinto type of car comes from the dead end at the park and pulls right up next to the sidewalk of the yard we are in. Sure enough, plain as day, it's the clown. No hat this time, but knife in hand and telling us to come here. Danny starts shoving all of us toward the house, and he himself is scared and running now. The car drives off down the street. We get inside and Danny calls the police. We had to give statements, and police patrolled the neighborhood and the park for a few weeks. We were never allowed to go to the park again, and a few months after that, the city started to clear out the woods, cut down many trees and made a walking area so that you could see all the way through to the tracks. My friend and I used to talk about this many times up until our death. No one would have believed us had they not seen it as well. It was just so scary. I think they only got to see him because whoever it was had to go down the dead-end street to leave the neighborhood. Either way, this man was not afraid of us, nor the small group of people that gathered from our screaming. He very bravely stopped right in front of us as her father tried to comfort us and calm us down, all while flashing his knife. We are lucky to be alive, I feel. Had it just been one of us left in the woods, which sometimes occurred, I don't think there would have been a group of 4 of us any longer. Sarah's dad stopped drinking that day. We all have a fear of clowns. Thanks so much for watching tonight's episode of Spooky Season. I hope you enjoyed watching or listening to it as much as we did making it. If you liked it, leave a like rating down below and subscribe for future content. See you next time, and sweet dreams.